Hello there, Commonwealth from Tears of the Kingdom, as we pointed out around 2 years ago, has many similarities to Ocarina of Time, and especially when it comes to the distant past, so the time frame and events that tie up to Hyrule Warriors' Age of Imprisonment. Why would I say that? Well, for one, we have sages, we have Rauru, we have an active Princess Zelda, and most of all, Ganondorf. The Gerudo sage has a new for sages lightning feat, though as was the case in the adult section of Ocarina of Spirit Temple, light and mirroring it being the key puzzle leading to the dungeon boss. In Ocarina of Time, that was Kouma and Kotake, who in Tears of the Kingdom appeared to stand by Ganondorf's side in a younger form in the past, and whose names are found on the Demon King's weapons dropped by Phantom Ganon. Scenes that are pretty much scene-to-scene replications from Ocarina of Time. And as a result, by building on 3D Zelda being associated with these story beats and elements, you have the perfect template to build up towards another release of Ocarina of Time, one that is grander and bigger than ever before. And in many ways, such a project has depended on the next Nintendo hardware getting more powerful than it has been up to this point. Well, we have the Nintendo Switch 2, by far most powerful Nintendo system of all time, one that is capable of upscaled 4K up to 60 frames per second, and you need something very fitting and spectacular, really, when it comes to the first remake on this new system. I don't think there's anything else apart from Ocarina of Time and maybe Twilight Princess that are fitting for the task, because those are really the two games that are in the discussion for Zelda's 40th anniversary, especially after people have seen the potential of late 90s games properly remade. Yes, I'm talking about Final Fantasy VII Remake Integrate, which now it is coming to Nintendo Switch 2 in 2025. And Final Fantasy VII Remake Integrate is in many ways a good template to follow for Ocarina of Time, and it's also the kind of inspiration that Nintendo and the Zelda team can use to see that, yes, it is possible to take these classics and bring them up to 4K, the start of its own trilogy. If you're successful with an expanded Ocarina of Time, you can do the same later down the line with Majora's Mask. And if that is also successful, well, then you have everything set up for the missing Hero of Time game connecting between Majora's Mask and Twilight Princess. Or you just do Twilight Princess in 4K. Nintendo has run out of 3D Zelda games to remake. They have done all of them. They have done Ocarina of Time, they have done Majora's Mask, Wind Waker, Twilight Princess, Skyward Sword, and in a way now Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom with the Switch 2 editions. And as a result, if they want to do more with the 3D games, between each new 3D game that isn't Hyrule Warriors and has the proper Zelda gameplay, they have to think anew. And Ocarina of Time gives them that possibility to kind of restart that remake process, but doing it on much more powerful hardware than the 3DS. But here's the thing about Ocarina of Time. This is a game that you introduce to new generations. You have the N64 generation, you have the 3DS generation, and how many generations have now passed since the start of the 3DS generation? Well, we've had the Wii U and we've had the Nintendo Switch, meaning that you've had 2 generations in between. How many generations were in between the 3DS and the Nintendo 64? Well, 2, GameCube and the Wii, or in Game Boy terms, Advance and DS. There's never been a better time to remake Ocarina of Time as with the 40th anniversary in 2026. All while also giving us a tease of the next The Legend of Zelda game. Yes, they could pull another 2021. And what do I mean by that? Well, you have a direct in the beginning of the year in February, usually, which, look and behold, is exactly the 40th anniversary of The Legend of Zelda. And that's when they revealed in 2021 Skyward Sword HD. And Ocarina of Time has a history of being revealed first alone, but then being used to promote the next big upcoming Zelda. Of course not with the N64, because, well, it was a brand new game, but if we look at the Wind Waker, well, what did we have there? We had a very special edition, which included The Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time, that was a reward for the pre-order of The Legend of Zelda, The Wind Waker. And what's more, that included the Master Quest of Ocarina of Time. Then, in 2011, For The Legend of Zelda's 25th anniversary, Ocarina of Time was also very important in celebrating the anniversary of The Legend of Zelda. In fact, it came out shortly after the recognition, but then it was also there as part of supporting the 25th anniversary Legend of Zelda game, Skyward Sword. In the 30th anniversary, it didn't show up. But as I said, Ocarina of Time only shows up with new versions for generational reasons. And both the 30th anniversary and 35th anniversary were in many ways too soon for that. But still, it showed up in 2021 in the September Direct, where we got Nintendo 64 Switch Online with Ocarina of Time. But what did we get before that? Well, we got the reveal in February of Skyward Sword HD, followed in June, and the final physical digital E3, that game showing up there, the HD version of Skyward Sword, followed by a brand new Zelda game. Do you see the strategy here? Now that you've used up all the other 3D Zelda games, if you're going to reveal the next brand new Zelda game over 3 years after Tears of the Kingdom came out, and several months after Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment is out, which, let's be honest, was in many ways the same situation with Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, well, look no further. Reveal in February, Ocarina of Time, 4K, blow away the internet with that reveal, and then follow it up with another trailer in June, close to the release of said Ocarina of Time 4K remake, and also reveal the next Legend of Zelda game. Just like we saw in the case of Link's Awakening in 2019, when we first saw the reveal of the sequel to The Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild, the later Tears of the Kingdom. This is the way of doing it if you don't want to bring Twilight Princess 4K. But by doing Ocarina of Time 4K, you can always bring Twilight Princess 4K at a later point. Same with the Wind Waker 4K, Majora's Mask 4K, and even Skyward Sword 4K. It will go in cycles with 3D Zelda games, where we'll see remakes and remasters coming back because it takes longer and longer to develop brand new open-air Zelda games. They need to fill it out. They have an ambition of having Zelda releases approximately every year. So if we look at the timeline from now, 2025, Zelda Switch 2 editions of Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, along with the Wind Waker on GameCube Switch Online, and then Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment. Meaning that we can't have another Hyrule Warriors game for another 4 years approximately, or probably until the next open air Zelda game is out. So in 2026, we have the 40th anniversary, where we have either Ocarina of Time 4K, Twilight Princess 4K, but for just going down through the 3D games again, you start with Ocarina of Time 4K. Then in 2027, you can either have, just like 2 years after the launch of the Nintendo Switch, a remake of a 2D Zelda classic. Probably the Oracle games, or the Minish Cap for that matter. In 2028, if the next 3D Zelda game is not ready, Grezzo can be ready with a new top-down The Legend of Zelda game. Or in 2027 and then have a remake in 2028. And then in 2029, have the next open-air Zelda game, 2030, by the next Hyrule Warriors, tied to said game. All within the Nintendo Switch 2 generation. And somewhere in between, or in that late time space, Majora's Mask 4K, and also maybe Twilight Princess 4K. But I would rather see the Wind Waker 4K if they have decided already maybe to put Twilight Princess on GameCube Switch Online. This is the way that Nintendo manages to turn remakes of their 3D games into a proper cycle, and can use them to fill out the gaps between new open-air The Legend of Zelda releases. That's right. And on that note, I think we've covered most of it. But I want to hear your opinions about Ocarina of Time returning on the Nintendo Switch 2, especially now that the hardware has definitely been confirmed to be able to handle such a project, at least when the games are not too big. And Ocarina of Time offers the scale, story, and most of all, hero to pull this off. Sound off in the comment section down below. If you haven't already, then be sure to leave a like, subscribe and press the notification bell to make this video more visible, as we have more Zelda and Nintendo Switch 2 videos on the way. Last but not least, a big thanks to you for watching until the very end, and to all our patreon.com/CommonRealm patrons. Special shoutouts go to Raw Producer JC Funk and Heroes, Cheryl, Garrett Hoy, Holly Wolf, and Kintaro. You all rock, And please enjoy one or both of these two awesome videos.